All right, party people, what's good? Like I said yesterday, we were celebrating because we finished the book of Genesis. What's good, y'all? Those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm Lonnie Appleton. I am a healthy family advocate, and I am just out here advocating for the health, the wellness, the restoration of our families, figuring out how we can live together so that we can build together. Because the only way we gonna get our 40 acres and a mule is, hey Kendra, the only way we gonna get our 40 acres and a mule is if we go there together, because individually they ain't gonna let us get up off our knees. You already know what that is. So yesterday we finished the chapter of Genesis and we patted ourselves on the back because that was a huge feat. Like, I don't know about y'all, but the many times that I have read this thing, it has made zero sense and I had no idea how to apply it. But when I look at the perspective of how can we structure our families based on the information in this book, and how have we misstructured our families based on the information in this book, now we can get some work done and I'm really excited. Like, I went to my class yesterday and I was telling, one of the brothers, I was just like, well, we finished the chapter of Genesis. He was like, what was it about? And I was like, I have to explain what I took from the book of Genesis. And I was just like, okay. But after that initial, thank you so much. After that initial, oh my God, I got to explain what I received from the Bible. And, feeling the, when you're around certain people, they judging you. I had somebody tell me when I quoted 3 popular Bible scriptures and you weren't able to identify them, I already knew what type of person you were. I was just like, okay, so you're sitting here in judgment of me while telling me that you're a follower of God who is all about non-judgment, or Jesus for this person. So I'm like, okay, you keep rocking that relationship, my friend, and I'm going to rock mine. And we should all be at peace with our own individual journey and the journeys of others, because relationship with God is so extremely personal. And to sit and look at anyone else and have any opinion about their relationship with God is like asinine to me. You do you. As long as you know God, that's all that matters to me, because I just know God is higher awareness. Now, Trinity, we just got off live with Trinity, one of our community members. She completed one of my energy worksheets available on my website, LonnieLifestyle.com. And so we were just talking about her experience and just having some healing conversations. If you guys are ever interested in coming on and having a healing conversation on live, let me know. I'm definitely available for that. I also do private coaching sessions as well as mentorships. And then the content in itself, we're healing ourselves, we're asking the necessary questions, we're theorizing, we're not being solid on anything that we discuss, we're just discussing. Discussing is the ability to contemplate and play in the possibilities. So that's what we're all about over here. Now that we have finished Genesis, I had to do a writing last night. I was just going to teach, but I was like, no, I'm going to write down what I want to say. And even when writing down what I wanted to say, it took me up and through and around the mulberry bush. And yeah, I'm just going to read it and we're going to see what I say, because I did not proof it after I wrote it. And I don't even know if I stayed on topic, but maybe there's a message in there, and hopefully I know it was in the midst of a journaling session. So hopefully I stopped at the right point. But I would love to maybe record a video, 3 minutes or less, because I don't want to feel trapped in your video, just being transparent. I'm going to DM a question I want to see if you have any insight on after the live. Please do. So, Kendra, don't speak to my spirit, sis, because I always wanted to be Dear Abby. I used to read Dear Abby, and I was like, man, I can answer that question better than her. And imagine how young I was during it was at the 80s, so I was like a 5-10-year-old, like, I can answer that better than Abby. But I've always wanted to be Dear Abby, so definitely ask your questions, and I can film either a video response that it can help others in anonymity, or, we could address it however you choose to address it. So yes, definitely ask. We met so many people, miserable people in my opinion, in Genesis. I don't want to get into it. I'm just going to read what I wrote, but we met a lot of people in Genesis, and I really hope that everyone was able to sit down and reflect on the individuals that we met in Genesis, how they lived, how they felt, what was their day-to-day experiences based on what we received. Because again, we don't have any concordance, we don't have any additional reference points. We have what's between this cover and this cover to base our information on. Based on what we received from these people, I don't see any happiness. And so if we are constructing our lives based off of these people mentioned here, and they lived a lifetime. What was it? In the beginning, they were living like 900 years. So we went from 900 years to 100-something years of being alive. And of these 900 years, of these 100-something years, of these 200 XYZ years of being on this earth, these are the accounts of their life that they chose to share with us. In dropping into these people's lives, in the space that we dropped into them, how they're functioning within their ecosystem, which means your home is your ecosystem, right? This is my ecosystem. I must function within this ecosystem, and I must figure out how to flow. And everyone in here must figure out how to flow in this ecosystem and work together, simply put. So when you're reading the accounts that they chose to include of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah, Abraham and Sarah, it's important that we learn these names and these people become real to us in the respect that if they become real to us, then we can actually apply the lessons that they teach us. But if we don't even put a name to the face or to make some sort of connection point, those of you who are familiar with my content, you understand that I always talk about the anchor point. You must have something to connect yourself into something in order for it to start growing and manifesting into to water your seed. I can always plant a seed, but if it does not connect to you, it's a dormant seed. Further on in the Bible, they talk about casting your seeds out, right? You're planting your seeds, and some of those seeds are going to fall on fertile land, and some of those seeds are going to fall on non-fertile land. So every seed that's planted is not going to give forth fruit, is not going to give forth life. And because we know that, if someone's planting a seed, it may or may not manifest into anything. I lost my point, so let's get going. The recovery is everything. How do you remain faithful when things don't go your way? That was the question that I sat down to answer. And just like when I read the Bible, I'm going to read what I wrote, and I may stop in between and have some discussion. Because I saw the different characters, people. I want to be mindful of how I speak about the people in the Bible, because I know it offends some people, when people say it's a bunch of stories. I don't want to be offensive, but let's look at this as this is an account of real people's lives. This is an account, whether it's skewed or not. Don't allow, books are missing from the Bible and they've altered it and it was written from a beep, 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 whatever you want to say about King James perspective. It was all these different things. We can discount and discredit things a million different ways. But we also have to pay attention to our tendency to discount and discredit things as a means to keep us away from something, right? I was watching a K-drama called My Demon, and it's really just a love story, but the main character is a demon. And I was like, how many people wouldn't even, and it's taught me so much. It's taught me so much about how, again, I'm in school to learn about contracts. I'm in school to learn about deals. I'm in school to learn about people's tendency to not even be aware that they're selling their souls because they're selling themselves short and accepting what less than they deserve. I'm in school right now because in life is school, right? I'm not actually in school. I'm learning. Spirit decides what they're just going to lay on me heavy, like boom, 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 boom. And so if you watch my content, thank you, friend. If you watch my content, you'll see how I'll just start talking about a particular topic real heavy. And right now, I've been talking about selling your soul, the presence of demons, the devil, deals, contracts, and blessings. And so those are the topics that I have been talking about heavy lately. And I was like, God, why do you got me talking about this stuff? This stuff is crazy. You know, black folks, they don't play with this stuff. They gonna run. And God was like, and that's the problem. My people will shut themselves off because we are the chosen people, right? My people will shut themselves off simply because of the title or hearing a word or something where they're like, nah, I'm good. And they click off. But guess what? God said, my people will perish for lack of knowledge. And we think the knowledge that we're supposed to continue to increase in is knowledge of God. Okay. But guess what? Our enemies are increasing in. They are increasing in knowledge of whatever it is that they choose to excel in. But they are also increasing in knowledge of us. So if we think that we will perish because we don't know God to the nth degree, it's great that you know God. But guess what? You don't know your enemy. And so when your enemy comes to attack, you don't even recognize your enemy because you spent all your time running from any mention of your enemy. But if you are solid enough in your knowing and your development to be able to be in the presence of your enemy, which you are all the time, you are the enemy. You literally reside in a body that is fighting against itself all the freaking time. And if you understand that you need to fight the devil within before you even focus on the devil without, you can start healing yourself. That's why when I was just speaking to Trinity and Trinity was talking about, people want to tell her she's healing wrong because she goes into the space, she goes into the darkness. Shadow work is going into the shadows, going into the darkness, healing the aspects of us that nobody wants to talk about. Who wants to be healed and still live in secret? Is that healed? And if you think that you're healed and you still live in secret, you're not healed. And I'm not going to tell you you're doing wrong. That may be your version, but there's more. There's more, friend. Just know that there's more. When you're willing to release that which you keep in the darkness because you don't want to, don't nobody need to know about that. You're limiting yourself. Adam and Eve comes to mind just when I said that. God knows all, right? When God pulled up on them and they were hiding behind the little leaves and they were like, why are you hiding from me? Oh, because we're naked. They try to hide in the darkness and deceive God, but God knows all. God knows what's going on. You can hide it from your spouse. You can hide it from your kids. You can hide it from your friends. You can hide it from your social circle. You can hide it from us. But if you're doing the work to heal, which is your greater good, your healing ain't got nothing to do with me. My healing ain't got nothing to do with you. I could care less if you heal. But if we're doing the work to heal even those deepest, darkest spaces that even shame us, I'm ashamed of me. We got to go there if we really want freedom. So the recovery is everything. How do you remain faithful when things don't go your way? I've been inspired to ask, what if? What if Cain hadn't killed Abel? It truly seemed to be sparked from God's favor of Abel and dismissive energy towards Cain. What if Lot's wife never looked back? would he have been reduced to a man living in a cave, being essentially arred by his two daughters? Remember, Lot's lineage was able to continue because his daughters got him drunk and took advantage of him. What if Abraham actually sacrificed Isaac? What if Jacob never stole Esau's blessing? And what if Esau hadn't fared so well after all? What if Laban hadn't double-crossed Jacob and left Leah out the shady deal? Could Leah and Rachel have been friends versus enemies, bound to the same man? Leah and Rachel, those of you who aren't familiar, give you a little insight behind these what ifs. Make sure you're in Bible study. We come on live. The time may change simply because, I may have things to do, but, Thursday, tomorrow Bible study time may change, but at present, it's still at 12. But daily, Monday through Saturday, 12 p.m., we're reading the Bible. After today, we're going to get into Exodus. But Leah and Rachel were sisters. Leah was the oldest. Rachel was the youngest. Leah was unattractive. Rachel was beautiful. So when Jacob came and he saw Rachel, Laban, their father, was like, yeah, you can have Rachel. But when it was time for him to marry Rachel, he snuck Leah in. And so he ended up consummating his marriage to Leah. And so now Leah is pulled into this shady deal, this shady tactic of her father, Laban. She's being used as a pawn in his scheme to marry off his oldest daughter because nobody came a knocking for Leah. But everybody came a knocking for Rachel. So what if she was never pulled into that? Could they have been friends? Leah's sons were so full of anger and resentment towards their half-brother Joseph. They all but two agreed to kill him. What if they hadn't? What if they had actually Joseph? I don't know if I need to say that or can say that word. What if they actually took Joseph off the face of the earth? What if Joseph hadn't ended up at Potiphar's house with his lion-ass wife? What if the cupbearer never got thrown into prison and place where Joseph could interpret the dream? What if the cupbearer had actually remembered Joseph immediately after being released from prison? What if it wasn't Joseph there to rescue his brothers all those years later, but another man, or to receive, I can't read my handwriting, y'all. What if it wasn't Joseph there to receive his brothers all those years later, but another man? How would their families have fared? When the famine came into the land of Egypt and across the other lands, and there was no food anywhere, Joseph's brothers received favor above favor, because remember, people literally sold themselves into slavery to have food to eat. They gave all of their money, and after they didn't have any money to give, because remember the famine lasted for 7 years. They gave all of their money. After they ran out of money, they gave all of their cattle. And after they ran in livestock, and after they ran out of livestock, they gave their land. And after they gave their land, they sold themselves into servitude, slavery, in order to live. And the point that I made yesterday is you have to understand just how low they keep us as a society to keep us continuously selling our souls and selling ourselves into slavery. Y'all think slavery ended. We are still slaves. Every day you wake up and go to a job that you hate, that doesn't pay you enough money to keep the things in your life that you don't even want. I don't want this house. I don't want this car. I don't want this family. I don't want any of these things, but I'm settling for these things because this is all that I have created for myself. Because you're unaware, you think that this is the life that God has given you. No, this is the life that you have created for yourself. And the energy necessary, the healing vibrational point that you must reach in order to heal yourself, to start to now manifest and create realities, is that darkness you must enter that Trinity talked about. The level of knowing yourself and healing yourself to vibrate to the frequency to create worlds is a space most people are unwilling to go to. Joseph was there to receive his brothers. So while everyone is selling their soul, selling their freedom, literally signing contracts to enter into slavery, Joseph's brothers were able to simply just walk away from their land. Just leave everything behind. Come and choose from the best land here that we have available. They actually came up while everybody else was so down because of the famine. But what if Joseph wasn't there? How would his family have fared? What if Joseph was allowed to grow up with his father? What would Benjamin's life have been like? Because remember, Benjamin was the last born of Rachel. Benjamin was the last piece of a love so deep that we know Jacob had for Rachel. I don't know how Rachel felt about Jacob, because anything we heard about Rachel was her fighting with Leah. But was she fighting with Leah over Jacob because she loved and adored Jacob? Or was she fighting with Leah simply because women gonna fight? We're territorial. That my man. I don't want him, but you can't have him. Ring the alarm. I've been doing this too long. I'll be damned if I see another chick on your arm. Like, I don't want this nigga, but you ain't having him either. So Benjamin was the last piece to Jacob's love, because in his mind, Joseph was dead. So Benjamin was under such lock and key that Jacob, these J's, y'all, Jacob wouldn't even let him out of his sight. So I wonder if nothing ever happened to Joseph, what Benjamin's life would have been like. This is how you start making these characters in this book real. What if? And now once you start what ifing these people, now you can start what ifing them from the perspective of your research points, asking your questions, theorizing and creating your scenarios, and start aligning to your life. And now you can actually live the Bible in a healthy way. Some of y'all out here wilding. It's all the what ifs. The book of Genesis brought up a lot for me. But what really stuck out was how everyone seemed fine because everything turned out fine. Mostly. I mean, Cain did kill Abel. Can't come back from death, right? Lot's wife did look back. She did turn into a pillar of salt. She ain't coming back, Mostly things turned out fine. Lot did end up living in a cave, and let's talk about Lot. Yes, Jacob stole Esau's blessing, but Esau became a very wealthy man in his own right. I wonder, would Esau be so welcoming to Jacob if he hadn't came up? Like, what if Esau was sitting in a tavern? I don't know if they had taverns back then, but that is the oldest name I know for a bar. What if Esau was sitting at a tavern when somebody ran up? Because remember, Jacob sent his people ahead of him to go tell Esau he was coming. He just didn't pull up on Esau. And so what if Esau was chilling in the tavern, drinking his life away because he ain't got nothing else to live for because, Joseph done stole his birthright. I'm cursed to be he's bitter. And somebody comes in the tavern and they're like, yo, is there an Esau here? And he's like, yeah. And they pull up and they're like, yo, your brother Jacob is on his way back. Your brother Jacob's on his way back. What? So when Esau went to go meet Jacob with his 400 men, would it have been different had he not fared okay? If Abraham had to sacrifice Isaac, could he, and if he did, would he still be faithful and blameless in the eyes of the Lord? If that man really had to sacrifice his son, would he really have sacrificed his son? And after he sacrificed his son, would he just be happy-go-lucky, God's ace, just because God is continuing to bless him because he sacrificed his only child, I believe, or his favorite child? No, because Hagar was in the picture. Hagar and Ishmael. So Isaac was born to him from Sarah. So many names. Rebecca was Isaac's booski. Sarah birthed Isaac. Abraham loved Sarah. I don't know if Sarah loved Abraham. I don't hear enough to know to be able to discern that, but we definitely know that Abraham loved him some Sarah and loved him some Isaac. And if he did sacrifice him, would he still be able to rock with God the way that he rocked with him? How do we stay faithful when things aren't going our way? Basically, my question here is, how do you keep going when things aren't going right? And the best examples that we have are Lot and Joseph. Lot lost everything after being so blessed. Remember, Lot was so blessed that he and Abraham could not occupy the same space because they had so much in their livestock. Their servants were arguing, and the livestock, there's only so much field that these animals can graze, so they were so blessed that they had to separate. And he lost everything. And he ended up living in a cave and getting so drunk night after night that he had intercourse and didn't even remember it. Now, I've had my share of drunken intercourse, but this is next level of drunkenness and implied pits of despair. How do you drink yourself? Because think, for his daughters to take advantage of him and for him not to remember it the next day. First of all, I'm asking questions once they start showing. I'm like, yo, when we came into this cave, you were a virgin. How you pregnant? Both of you. So I would have asked some questions, and I'm sure some questions were answered, but this is also in an era where, within the family was normal. That's how we were fruitful and multiplied. But this isn't an anomaly. This isn't a one-off occurrence, because we all have our tolerance of consumption, alcohol consumption. And how do you drink so much wine that you black out if that's not a habit? You understand? So Lot's life plummeted so greatly after he had to flee Sodom that he went from being so wealthy that he had the cattle, he had the servants, he had the everything, to living in a cave. So he started drinking his life away. What was his life outlook? What was his life perspective? Because things did not play out according as Lot's plan. I'm sure he didn't, dream of living in a cave being essayed by his daughters. I'm sure that wasn't his go-to, drinking his life away every night to where he is just blackout drunk. I'm sure that wasn't what he predicted for himself. What if? Now Joseph, his story is twofold. One, the very real knowing that his steps were ordered before he was born. Since the Bible is very good at the begats, so-and-so begat, so-and-so begat, somebody begatted and begatted some more, we can trace Joseph's origins and story all the way back to Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve had to endure what they endured: Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It all had to happen just as it had, and if we know Joseph and all his descendants, went through that to get to this, what are you going through to get to? Do you understand? Yeah, Joseph went through some things. Joseph went through losing his mother, who loved him. Joseph was love. Joseph was a child that was created in love. I will assume that Rachel and Jacob loved each other and they have a love child, 2 love children. Let's just play that card. I don't know if it's true, because earlier I said I don't know if Rachel loved Jacob, but I know Jacob loved Rachel. But let's just play it from the perspective, because we're allowed to theorize. If we allow ourselves to theorize, then we can allow ourselves to come to more conclusions than just saying, well, this is the truth, so let me just stay in the parameters of the truth. No, the truth is subjective, because your truth is different from my truth. My truth is based on my background. Your truth is based on your background. So there's no such thing as the truth. But Joseph came from a loving home, 2 loving parents. But because Laban threw Leah into the mix, they automatically had an enemy in their home. Leah hated Rachel and probably hated Jacob, because who said Leah loved Jacob? Again, 2 women will fight over a man neither of them want, simply because you are not taking my man. So Leah was holding her ground simply for this fact that I'm the oldest. I done played second fiddle to your ass my whole life. And now you trying to take my husband? Even though that ain't her husband, because daddy pulled the Oyuwapti. So he grew up being hated by Leah's sons. They don't ever mention the daughters, except for when Dinah got essayed. But he grew up in a household where on one side he is so loved and favored, like Jacob fawned over him. But then he could go into the next room with one of Leah's boys and be called and treated all kinds of different ways. Them boys hated Joseph so much that they contemplated taking his life, but settled for selling him into slavery. He ended up in Potiphar's house, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but he ended up in Potiphar's house, and he ended up in prison, and then he ended up in Pharaoh's palace. So if you knew that you had to go through this to get to that, what would your perspective be? Joseph, I actually thought, and I still pulled the wrong name. Joseph went through that to get to this. And this is second to Pharaoh. Would you be willing to go through that if you knew that this was on the other side? What would be your perspective? And the value of your life is so great that your mother and father were born. Your life. Not Jacob and Joseph and all the people. Your life. The value of your life is so great that your mother and father were born so that you may live. So anyone out there who's out there contemplating Why am I here? I don't want to be here. Understand that as far back as you want to trace it, you can trace it all the way back as you choose. But no, through being hated by his family, sold into slavery, placed in a household where, in spite of his high position, he withstood daily sexual harassment, thrown in prison behind someone lying on him, to show up for people time and time again with his spiritual gifts, only to be forgotten in the worst way. How did he remain faithful? How do you remain faithful? How do you remain on this earth? You insert your trials here. Yeah, I get it. My mom and dad were born so I could be here. I get it. My grandparents were born so I could be here. I get it. My great-grandparents were born here so I can be here. I get it. But I done been through some stuff, and I don't know how to continue going forward. How do you continue going forward? How did Jacob continue to go forward? It's because he held on to absolute knowing that God was leading his life. And you have to move into the space of absolute knowing that you are being led through this life, and whatever you go through. Sometimes the free will of choice isn't the actual experience, because experience is the best teacher. You must experience. The beautiful thing about ascending to the space of understanding that I can learn from your experience, I don't have to actually experience it myself. I can learn from you. That's a beautiful place. That's when we stop bumping our heads. But the free will and choice isn't necessarily the experience, but how we choose to go through the experience. So we say now this is a passive approach to life. We are leading our lives, but also we are God. So we have to understand our own God power, our own God energy, and that we are effectively or ineffectively, actively or inactively creating our own reality. So disassociate, if you choose, continue to move how you choose, but disassociate from the idea that the life that you are living is happenstance. You were born into the circumstances that you were born into simply because you are the chosen people. And as the chosen people, the system has been put in place to put your kind at the lowest possible, the word denominator popped in my head, but that's not the lowest possible placement on the rung of the hierarchy. You have to be at the lowest possible space in order for you to have the deepest deficit for you to even to begin to crawl out of. And some of you will just say, this is the cards that I was dealt. This is the life that God gave me. No, this is where the system has placed you so that you have to dig yourself out from this deficit. And you have to understand that the deficit, yes, is financial, poverty versus wealth. But that even is outside of us, because those who have wealth don't necessarily have it all figured out. And even more so, those who have been blessed with wealth are even less apt to get to the point of healing themselves, because society tells us wealth is the healing point. So I'm not going to work on me because I got money. And we overlook how bankrupt a human is simply because they have money. And we can be as bankrupt as we want to be as long as we get in this bag. But we're not going to come into our divinity, balancing ourselves out and getting to the knowing of our God power and our ability to create realities if we continue to accept and believe that the love of money, the acquisition of money and things is what's getting you closer to your divinity here in this lifetime. Also, we're not going to heal as long as we believe that God is outside of us and whatever this is what this is as far as God said I can go because that's what I was born into. You know that's not true because you actually watch people pull themselves out of it. We look at the big people and we're just like, oh, well, they have a particular skill. He's a basketball player, a football player. That's how they did it. They want us to believe that the ability to change our lives is in some super talent. No, it's in knowing that you are creating your reality, and at any point you can wake up and create a new one. I'm gonna get off of it. So knowing the power is in your creator's hands, and you are the creator. You are the creator. God is outside of you. God is inside of you. God is around you. God is all encompassing depending on how you form your relationship and knowing with God. Very personal relationship. I am God. I am one with God. God is outside of me. God speaks to me. God speaks through me. God. And this is my current field of awareness. I may come to another field of awareness where I'm like, I've already been talking to God. I feel like I be talking to God, y'all. But guess what? I used to feel like I was talking to God. And now that I've come to this space of talking to God, I'm like, oh, I wasn't talking to God then. So I'm pretty sure as I continue to ascend and get that crap up off of me, I'm be like, I wasn't talking to God then either. Well, I'm talking to God now. But understand you're talking to God at every single level because you are God. What if the perspective you will choose to reflect on? Oh, that's a space, okay. What if the perspective you will choose to reflect on your past, take responsibility for your present, and get to crafting your future? What is the perspective? Okay, so what is the perspective that you will choose? Because you have to understand you are the creator. I recently received another understanding of past, present, and future. I can't think of it right now, and the notes are in my phone, so I'll make a video on it. But how to utilize our past to create our present and our present to create our future. So if you knew that it all was about perspective and the energy that you drive into those things, and understanding that your present is your past. You understand? Right now, it's the past. It's the past. It's the past. The power of 3. It's the past. You know what I'm saying? So every second of your life is the past, and every second you're either building a new future or the same future, and you have to decide what you're building. Whatever seeds that you are putting in the ground presently, sitting here and listening to this message, sitting here and receiving whatever it is for you to receive so that you can fuel and power yourself through your day, knowing and awareness that your perspective creates your reality. It's the past. And now it has created your present. So what is the perspective that you will take into reflecting on your past? Because your past created right now. Whatever right now looks like, you created that. And now let's reflect on it. Or is that trauma? Is that something I can't get over? Oh my God. And I'm not mocking you, but I'm mocking you because if you choose to stay stuck, this isn't the content for you. But if you choose to heal past and utilize your past and have an optimistic growth perspective when you reflect upon your past, now you can take responsibility for your present. Your present is not outside of you. Your present is within you and what you have chosen to accept based on your past creations. And because it's based on your past creations, now you can sit in your present and you don't resent it. You're like, okay, I can see how my effort or lack thereof historically created this space. And if I know that that created this space, I must get active in this moment in order to create another space. Do you understand? So what is the perspective you will choose to reflect on your past, take responsibility for your present, and start crafting and creating your future? The ability to maintain perspective regardless of circumstances is the key of finding the value, the gift, and the lessons in life. And if you don't know how to do that, make sure you are plugged into this content. If you're not a part of the community, get a part of the community. I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, and I also offer other energetic services like energy worksheets. Just check me out at LonnieLifestyle.com. Okay, and that was the end. That's the end. It was a part of a journaling, so I just had to keep reading before I actually start reading my journal to y'all. I'm gonna publish my journals one day. That's why I journal so much. I've really contemplated and pondered a lot of life's issues and concerns in these journals, and come to a lot of revelations that once I publish my journals, they're gonna be instrumental in healing others. So I'm really excited. I enjoy journaling, and I encourage other people to journal because, believe it or not, you are an ancestor. Believe it or not, we are an ancient civilization. I need you to understand that you are a part of an ancient civilization, meaning 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 1,000 years from now, people will be able to pull up artifacts from 2024 and study it. And will you be one of the people who are remembered? Thank you for the love. Hey, her hands, how you doing, Pat? Are you going to be one of the people who's remembered? Who's remembered? Or are you going to be one of the people who are forgotten? You need to start seeing the importance in your life. You need to start seeing the value in your life. Your mother and father were born specifically for you to be here. Your grandparents were born specifically for you to be here. Yeah, they did other things, and we're not worried about all the other things they did. We are focused on you and your legacy. And why are you here? No matter how unimportant, thank you so much, I appreciate the love. No matter how unimportant you feel your life is, how insignificant you feel your life is, understand that people were born specifically for you to be here. And you were born specifically for a reason. What is the reason? That is your work to figure out. But just like we know, the work that Jacob, these J's, y'all, the work that Jacob was able to get to, like, I wonder when he was being sold into slavery. Thank you, Kendra. When he was being sold into slavery, he would know in a matter of years, he would be the one saving all of Egypt and beyond from a widespread famine. Remember when he walked up on his brothers and they're like, here this dreamer comes. Here comes the dreamer. Those dreams saved their lives. So resenting anything and anyone, this is a message to myself, because as I go through this journey and I communicate with different people and what I consider play me, I'm like, all right, don't come a crawling back, because box has been checked. And I'm coming to you in this energy. But no, because you did not play your position the way that I wanted you to according to my agenda. Mm-hmm. Man plans God's plan. God is the best of planners. Because you didn't move in accordance to my agenda, now I have cut myself off from potential blessings between you and I, because I'm holding you to task. Therefore, the energy that you now come back and approach me with, there's going to be energy. Okay, Lonnie, put a pin in that. Move it right there. Now let's look at Joseph and the cupbearer. Joseph delivered the message to the cupbearer. The cupbearer got out of prison 3 days later after promising that he would show up for Joseph, and fails to do so because he forgot. He got back in the mix. He pouring up the wine. He crushing up the grapes. He doing what he need to do. He forgot. He just happy he ain't the one that got his head taken off. 2 years later, he comes back and he's like, yo. And he is oh man, this is Chick. He is the one who is instrumental in elevating Joseph to second in command in Egypt. So what if Joseph sat in prison for those 2 years just pissed off because he's like, yo, old boy said he was going to remember me and he forgot me, man. And okay, bring Lonnie back into the play. Okay, Lonnie, yeah, you did speak to this person and it fell through. Yes, and it didn't happen. Yes, but you don't know how that person is going to be used to elevate you, if at all, but you don't know. So why are you, myself, putting any type of energy except for knowing that what is to be done is to be done, knowing what is for me, and knowing that me sitting here and planning future events based on energy I should not even be carrying right now don't even make sense, especially when you just sat here and read how 2 years later God used someone to do what needed to be done. And because of the 2-year delay and the circumstances that it was done under, had the cupbearer said 2 years prior, yo, little homie, he helped me, gave me the information I needed, Pharaoh would have been like, oh, that's cool. And Joseph would probably still be in prison. Or Pharaoh would be like, oh, for real? You can let him out. You know how the president does the pardons at the end of the year. Let him out. No skin off my back. He's been in there long enough for a fake case. Hey, Carbs. So if he would have said what he said 2 years earlier, it wouldn't have had the same impact. If the person shows up the way that you want them to show up in the small thinking of our present reality, remember, if we are creating visions, when we are reaching to people in the position that they could potentially play in our development, it's like this, right? You're helping me get to the next step. And sometimes you can help and sometimes you can't. And if you're not able to help, then I'm going to put you in your box of, you should have showed up to me when I was down, because when I'm up, don't show up. But what if that person, you came to him on this step and they could have helped you, but they didn't. But you still somehow keep climbing in spite of, right? So you keep climbing and something happens somewhere in the future where, here's this person that was here, suddenly shows up again here, and they take you here. It wasn't for them to be of impact in your life here. They couldn't impact you the way that God knows that they can impact you. Do you understand? The cupbearer couldn't have impacted Joseph the way that God knew that the cupbearer could impact Joseph. So if we know that this life is divinity, we know that everything that we say, everything that we do, yes, it can be worked through and filtered and healed. Like, I know I don't say nothing that I'm not supposed to say. I just need to heal through how I deliver those messages. Thank you so much for the love, Carby. I need to heal through different manifestations. Hey, Miss Tay. But the fact that it's being said is because it needs to be said. We must disassociate from this is me, I'm healing, this energy. Like Trinity said, like, We have turned the spiritual conscious community into just another form of the religious inflexibility. We are trying our hardest to take the same, we are trying our hardest to take the same energy that we are saying that we're fleeing from the religious perspective into the spiritual arena, and we're just replicating. And it's beautiful to them because they're like, they're still trapped and they have no freaking idea they are, because they're sitting there in judgment of each other on a very free flowing, go with the flow walk. Spirituality is free flowing, go with the flow. And we are all looking at each other, judging each other's journeys. Not knowing the sheer showing up of judgment is a reflection back to us of work that we need to do. So I learned a whole heck of a lot from Genesis. I really hope that those of you who are going through Bible study with us, if you miss any studies, I always repost them on YouTube, Lonnie Appleton Live, LONEAPPLETONLIVE. I always post over there. I like this Bible study because to me it's engaging. It's making something that has been so intangible to me tangible. I can make sense of this, so much so that I remember the players. Like, I can sit here and have a conversation about different people, not because, they're the popular people that people talk about and I've heard stories, but because I've made a connection within myself. So I really hope that those of you who are involved with the Bible study, you're actually doing the journal work and you're actually healing through what's here, because one thing God told me is my people don't know me and they must get to know me. And the other thing that God told me was, in order for us to actually truly apply this, we got to figure out individualistically how to apply it. I'm just here expressing possibilities. I could be saying a bunch of nothing. It means something to me, so that's all that matters. It is for you to receive the information and for it to now materialize in your reality. And how it materializes in your reality, I have identified, is getting a pen and a paper and writing down what it brings to light for you, based on what I read in chapter 32. This is what it means to my life. So do not skip past the journaling piece. Tomorrow we're going to start the book of Exodus. The Israelites oppressed, the birth of Moses. Moses flees to Midian. Moses and the burning bush. I'm going to keep it G. I know we're only in Exodus, but I cannot wait for Jesus to enter the chat. Like, I have not been beefing with Jesus, but beefing with the followers of Jesus. Like, before you can say God, you must profess that Jesus is the only way. Like, I've actually had people come to me on my posts and tell me, you can't say God, you have to say Jesus. I was like, you can't get to, no, I didn't say, they said, you can't get to God unless you go through Jesus. And I was like, oh, for real? So I've been beefing. So I can't wait for Jesus to enter the chat so I can build my relationship with Jesus based off of my today perspective, overcoming my biases based on people who try to force me into a box. Like, a lot of us have turned our backs in the spiritual community. A lot of us have turned our backs on this book simply because there's actual pastors out there who are preaching that people like us have no right to touch this book because we don't believe in one pathway to God. And so since they feel that way about us, we're like, fine, I don't need your book. You do. Even if it's a book of lies, there's some truths in there. Because you could take the lies and flip them and find the truth when you use your brain, right? If somebody tells you a lie and you're sitting there, you're looking at them and you know it's a lie. But the lie puts you on the right path, right? Because the lie told you to go left and you know it's a lie. So you now know how to go right. But how'd you would even know to go right if they never told you to go left and you discerned that it was a lie? So even when somebody comes to you in deception, if you use your spirit of discernment, you can always decipher what the heck they said using your intuition and your relationship and connection with higher self. So even if you do believe this is a book of lies, we can still go through this with our connectivity to our higher selves and get to the truth. So I'm excited about tomorrow. Thank you guys for stopping in. I'm here every day, Monday through Saturday, noon, Mountain Standard Time. It is presently 1:02, so an hour and 2 minutes ago, I'm here. So I will be back tomorrow. I should be back here tomorrow. I may have something to do till 1 o'clock, but my goal is to be here back at, thank you, Kendra, come through. I should be back here, if not 12, 1:30. So if I'm not here at 12 o'clock, which is our usual time, I will be here at an hour and a half later, 1:30. But it is very important to me that I get on here daily and read the Bible for us. And I like that we're building an audience so that you can tell your friends, and you could, whoever, if you've ever been curious and you've ever wanted to read the Bible, but it's so boring and it doesn't make sense, I make it real interesting. I'm sure it's blasphemy. I'm sure, all the powers that be probably think I'm committing all the wrongs, but guess what? God told me to do it. Like, me, this girl reading the Bible. I'm still tripping. So, all right, guys, see you tomorrow. We start Exodus either at 12 noon or 1:30. So either an hour ago or, an hour and a half after that. I don't know what your time zone is, but anyway. All right, talk to you guys later. Definitely journal what we shared today, the message that was shared today. Everything will be reloaded on YouTube, Lonnie Appleton Live. I'm a little slow, so the messages don't get uploaded. I'm not slow. I just don't have any space on my phone. I'm working on it. So I can't download these hour-long videos until I make space. So there's a delay. So I encourage you to catch the lives live and you can communicate, become a part of the community. Me and Kendra became aces here in the chat box. Carby is a part of the community overall. Trinity is a part of the community overall. If you guys aren't a part of the community, make sure you're following and getting vocal. Double tapping the screen. I love talking to you guys. I love seeing you guys talk to each other. I love seeing the love. It makes me feel like I'm not out here talking to myself. So definitely on future lives, please feel encouraged to or inspired to double tap the screen so I know, what I'm saying impacts you or, it has some sort of resonation with you, it resonates with you. Also, I'm human and I like to interact with humans, so please interact. All right, guys, have a wonderful day.